Okay, so what we have is we've got rolling text, and you'll see this rolling text just moves up the screen as you would expect it to. We have a typical kind of film layout, director, producer, name, and so on. We also have them aligned so that they both kind of come together in this vertical line or this vertical space that goes down between them. So this is a very conventional layout, and you can do this in a number of ways, but I'm just going to show you how you can do it the simple way, and then how you can put this specific look together. Now what you'll also notice is that the type font is of a certain type, pardon the pun. It's what's called a sans serif font. You'll know your Times New Romans and all these kind of fonts from probably from Photoshop or even Microsoft Word. There's my rolling text, there it is. And you can see what each font looks like if you go into the actual typeface drop down. Okay, now as a general rule of thumb, you want to stay away from ornate lettering. You want to stay away from lettering that has these kind of serifs, or these little kind of ends on each of the letters. Now the reason for that is that the serifs and the ornate elements are generally of a very thin nature, and thin objects, thin lines and things like that on screen can sometimes flicker, and they can sometimes be hard to look at. So I would suggest that you go through this sometime, you find out what works, you go through the various type fonts, and you find your kind of go-to fonts. Obviously each production might look for a different style, but you'll know that Arial Narrow works, you'll know that Helvetica works, you'll know that all of these various fonts will work time and time again, so it's good to know which ones look well. So I've gone for a simple Arial look here. And again, just like with the lower thirds, we've got a kind of a hierarchy of information, and it's split up in such a way that the job or the production role is bold and the name is not bold. So it gives you it allows your eye to kind of quickly go left to right to see who is who, and it's all kind of split by this very uniform vertical line, which is easy to look at, it's easy to read. So I'll start one from scratch just to show you the essentials of it. And when you create a new title, you can, as I say, you can go this way, or you can actually go title, new title, and then you can go default, roll, or crawl. Now I'm actually going to go and just create a simple, straightforward, static title, which is the default when you create a title. And now again, I can see text already here. That's fine, that just means that my playhead is currently over something on the timeline. So what I might do actually is just put the playhead elsewhere, because I want to keep black. I like working against black when I'm doing things like this, so I'll just put the playhead on an empty part of the timeline. Now with the type tool, you have a couple of different variants. You've got type, and then its kind of corresponding vertical type, and then you've got area type and path type tool. Now with the type tool, this is sometimes called point text or point type, which allows you to click and create some text. With the type area tool, it actually allows you to click and drag a text field, which will give you a kind of a paragraph. What that allows you to do is to put in lettering and treat it as if it were a block of text as opposed to a single piece of text. Now, just going to create some text here and just paste that a few times. Now, you can expand this, and if you wanted to, you could use your tab key, which is above the shift lock key on most keyboards, and you can tab across a few times until you get to a part of the screen where you can start a new column of text. And then you can go to the next line, you can tab across, and you can do it that way, and so on and so forth. Now I'm not going to go any further. Now once you've got your text set up, in order to make it roll or crawl or whatever you need to do, you go up to the roll crawl options button on the top left hand side, and that gives you options. So at the moment it's still or static text. When I change that to roll, it gives me a couple of options here. Now, in terms of its timing, start off screen means that it's going to start below the bottom of the screen and slowly roll its way up. End off screen means that regardless of where I leave the text here when I'm creating it, it's going to go all the way up to the top. So if I click those two buttons, you'll see that I don't get any options here on pre-roll and post-roll. If I don't have them selected, it allows me to keep the text static on screen for a while before it starts to move with pre-roll, and that's in frames. So if I put in 50 frames here, it will stay static on screen for 2 seconds because it's 25 frames per second. It will start to move, and then if I gave it post-roll of 50, it would stop at the end of the titles and stay there for 2 seconds as well. We know what ease in and ease out are. They just slowly allow you to gradually start into the movement and go out of the movement. And these are available regardless of whether you have end screen and start screen set. So I'm going to leave the start off screen and end off screen set. Click roll, everything is okay. And you won't notice any major difference there, but when I drag that out onto the timeline, you'll see it starts off below the bottom of the screen, moves up, and disappears off the top. Now the way that you control the timing, how fast it goes up or how slow it goes up, you just have to extend the clip on the timeline, and that allows you to give it more duration by making the clip longer or less by making it shorter. Okay, so you can see now it's significantly slower because I've given it more time to do its thing. Okay, now the version that I was looking at here, rolling text, is in fact made up of 2 text fields. Now the way that I produced this was to first of all create my text field for the left and paste or write in all of the text that I need. And when I had that done, all I did then was basically copy and paste. Or what you can do is you can click, hold down Alt, drag, hold down Shift, and that will duplicate it off perfectly to the right horizontally, and then I change the alignment to the left, and then I replace the text in there. So however you do it, there's a couple of ways you could go about doing it, but basically all I'm doing is I'm working with a duplicate of my first text field on the left, copying and pasting or duplicating it over to the right, and then replacing all of the text in there with new text. So that's how you keep things nice and flush and even. And when you've done that, then you just go into your text settings, you change one side to bold, or you could even change one side to italic if you wanted to do it that way. Again, it's entirely up to you how you decide to split the 2 columns of text. So this is just a simple roll because all I have is text, and I do all of the same things here. I click my roll options, start off screen, end off screen, and I'll create a new one based on this just so that we can static test, and I'll show you the other way that you can go about doing it. So in the options here, don't start off screen, don't end off screen. We'll pull that out, see what it looks like. So you can see it is still doing that, which I don't want it to do. Okay, so I'll go to select the 2 of them, pull the bar up here so that it's up at its highest value. Click that there, and that should start it off at this height now. There we go. So you'll see now that it starts up here, but it kicks off straight away. So why don't I give that a little bit of pre-roll? I'll give it 2 seconds of pre-roll, which is 50 frames. Click OK. And you'll see now that it actually stays static for 2 seconds, then starts. If I wanted to go a little bit further, I could say stay static for 2 seconds and then ease in with a value of 50. And you'll see that what it does now is it starts static and then gradually starts its movement. and if I wanted to, I could do the same at the end. It's very slow. Speed that up a bit. So that's no good. I want to have it pause at the end as well. 2 seconds and ease out 50. So one more time, let the playhead through it, stops, gradually starts, picks up speed, slows down, and stops. So this is where you want to have something like this, where you have kind of a graphic at the end. Now, to get the graphic in, all you have to do is right click, logo, insert logo, and it will just basically populate the titling screen with a JPEG or a PNG or whatever you want. Now, it seems that with Premiere you need to have your text fields that contain all of your names and that to go down basically below the logo, or for some reason it just won't show both the text and the logo. I'm not sure if this is something I'm missing or if it's just a little quirk of the software. But the way that I got around that basically was to create a piece of text down here and just color it black. Okay, so I created more text, just space, created a little bit of text there, colored it black, and that allowed me to have my movement go all the way down to this piece of text, and then I just slid the graphic in there. Okay, so that's about the only kind of tricky part of this as far as I can see, is getting the logo in. But if you remember that your text needs to go all the way down beneath the logo for the logo to appear, then that's all you need to do. So when you get to the bottom of your text, let's say actor 5 here for example, you just go space or return until you get down far enough that the text has gone off the screen. Keep going down until you can just put in a little bit of text at the bottom, pop your logo in, and what you should have then is this text goes up, keeps going, and then eases out to a static frame. And what we don't see is that there's just a few little letters down here colored black. Okay, so that's the role titling. So I'd suggest that you play around with that for your documentaries, and you can get it very professional looking if you just mind your typography. You don't have to reinvent the wheel with this kind of thing. You just want something clean that communicates, and just be mindful of the alignment and things like that as well.